Good morning or good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you're at. Thank you for joining our webinar today. We are going to be talking about our mid-year business plan review with our Nevada broker, Ron Ventura. If you were able to join us back in December, Ron did a 2022 goal planning. So we're just kind of using this as a check-in time. If you were able to join us in December, I'm just curious as to how many people are joining back. So just throw in the chat, say, hey, I'm back again. Or if this is your first time, Ron has a lot of information to share with you. So this is good for anybody, even if you weren't able to join us back in December. So we're really excited. Before we begin, I do want to let you know that Allison James Estates and Homes is a nationwide brokerage, which offers 100% commission, 100% support, and 0 franchise fees. Why split your commission if you don't need to? You earned it all, so shouldn't you keep it all? Our goal here at Allison James is to always give back to our agents by providing education, such as this webinar, training sessions, live events, and full broker support with the most up-to-date tools and technology available. We are always looking for new tools and ways to be able to provide you those amazing tools at lower or discounted prices so that you can keep your hard-earned money. Today's webinar is sponsored by our preferred lender, Movement Mortgage. For more information about Allison James Estates and Homes, you can visit www.agicareers.com. If you are one of our agents and you are looking to send information to another agent who may be interested in joining our brokerage, send them to that careers page, and there's forms they can fill out, and somebody from our recruiting department will go ahead and reach out to them. Let's go ahead and get started with today's topic. I do want to mention that today's webinar is going to be very interactive, so we want you to use the chat. At times, Ron may ask if somebody wants to speak, so please be interactive, and if you are willing to speak, I will go ahead and let you into as a panelist so that you can turn on your mic and whatnot. But I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Ron. Just remember, if you do have questions throughout today's presentations, we'll make sure they get answered. All you have to do is submit them into the chat box on your Zoom control panel. So with that said, I'll pass it over to Ron. Good morning, Ron.
Hey, good morning, Tori. Thank you. All right, well, thanks everybody for joining today. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate everyone taking the time. I was going to ask the same question, Tori, if anyone has heard me present before, and I'm glad you mentioned it. My style is more like a dialogue. I don't like to just present and to just talk at you the whole time. So, I prefer more of a back and forth. I really think and believe that learning is a two-way street. So I want to hear from others. I think that there are people on this call that can learn from each other as much or more than from me. And there's no one I feel like I can't learn from. So no matter what, no matter how much experience I've gained in life, I have found that there is always something new I can learn from someone. So please answer in the chat. If I've asked a question, just drop it in the chat. If you want to talk, just make a note and say I'd like to speak or whatever. And Tori will, as she said, give you access. I'd love to see you if you want to turn on your video. If not, at least just join in with your mic so I can help you in a very specific way. A little background on me. I was licensed almost 16 years ago, straight out of college. I grew up around the real estate business. My family's always been in real estate. My father's a commercial developer. My sister's a broker. So I started in commercial real estate. And I did this in 2006. And then in 2008, when the Great Recession started, it caused my family and I to pivot to flipping houses. So I opened a residential brokerage, 2009. And we did that for a couple of years. I really liked residential, so I stuck with it, and I did both for a long time. And I slowly transitioned from half and half of my business maybe being commercial and residential to probably about 90% now is residential and only about 10% commercial. So I mentioned all that so you guys know a little bit of my experience. I worked on student housing development at UNLV. I'm in Las Vegas, by the way, and I'm the broker for the state of Nevada. So if there's anything in my background and experience that can be of help to you ever, find me in the app, message me. Tori will post my contact information in the chat. And I don't mind helping people out. That's what I'm all about. So please reach out if there's something I can help. I've got experience with investments, construction, development, flipping houses. And for many years now, I've done residential real estate full time. That's my main focus. I oversee a team and I manage our agents in Nevada, but I also am very active. Before I begin, I wanted to get an idea of the experience on the call. So go ahead and type in the chat how many years you've been licensed. Go ahead, I'll wait. 2 years, 6, 18. 10, 8. All right. Good. I'm glad we've got a wide range. 16. Okay. What we're going to talk about today is for experienced and new agents. It's about setting goals and how to reach those goals. And I don't know anybody that could ever look at me and be like, I achieve all my goals. And I don't care who they are. So what we're going to do today is learn and talk about some of the tools that have really helped me better and go to the next level. At the core of what I'm going to discuss today is planning and how to plan better and how to set those goals and track your accomplishments. Has anyone heard of the 12-week year? That's a book that I'm going to talk about a few times today. That's something I read that really helped me. It took 20 years. Someone's been 20 years in this business. 12-week year is a book I recommend that you check out. A lot of things I am going to talk about today are based on that. It's a program that was invented by Brian Moran and Michael Lennington. I'm no way affiliated with this program. I'm not an expert. So if you like some of the things I cover, I encourage you to check out the book and their website. First thing is annualized thinking is what most of us think about that I want to correct. When you think about setting your goals, often people think about what are your goals for 2022? What are my goals for the next 12 months? To be more successful, you want to focus on goals in a shorter time frame. It's okay to have overarching goals. It's okay to have a year plan, a 5-year plan. It's okay to say, I want to, sell this many houses. I want to, create a social media presence. I want to have 1,000 followers on my page. The issue with looking at your goals in a 12-month increment is that you are going to procrastinate. You are going to be susceptible to over-optimism. So the book that I'm talking about, 12-week year, recommends setting your goals in 12-week increments. And maybe that means you're only setting 1 to 2 goals, but you're focused, laser focused to accomplish those goals. It's more obtainable that way. You'll stay motivated that way. And if you think in terms of years, what happens is, let's say right now after this call, you're pumped up and you are motivated and you're like, I'm gonna set these goals for the next 6 months. Before you know it, we're going to be in September or October, and you're going to look and be like, how am I doing on my goals? Oh, I'm not doing that great. That's all right. I've got 3 more months. I'm going to get to it. I'm going to knock it out the park. Like, I'll work harder the next 3 months. It's no surprise that in most sales industries, the last quarter of the year is everybody's best quarter because it's go time. It's like, oh, I haven't done as well as I thought I would this year. So part of this thought process is being able to adjust and adapt and look at your weekly, review yourself every week and see how you're getting to your goals. Is this resonating with anybody? Because I remember learning about this and having sort of a light bulb moment. Okay. Well, anybody have any questions on that, on the thought process there? I want to hear from you. Shoot something in the chat if you've got any questions, or I'm loud and clear.
I will say, while we're waiting for questions to come in, I have the 12-week year. And even if you're not a reader, it's a pretty easy read. It's not a long book at all. And it's only, I think, like $12 on Amazon. So it's worth it to read, to sit down and read it. It's a good one.
Yeah, and it took me a couple times to read through it and for it to connect with me because I didn't adopt things in it for a while. So one of the tools that I use, I want to share with you guys, I'm going to do a screen share here in a minute, is my scorecard. The scorecard for me is a game changer. This is a tool that I use to track my goals and review myself every week. The 12-week year talks about scorecard, and I've adapted it to make it my own. I'm going to show you some examples. I'm going to talk about it, and then I'll put a template in at the end in the app for anybody that wants it. And you can make this your own. But the key thing here, there's 3 key elements. Let me do a screen share, and I will pull mine up for everybody. Oh, that's not the one I wanted to share. Hang on. There we go. Okay, Tori, you see my screen? Yep, okay, perfect. Okay, so this is my scorecard, and I started doing this in 2020. When lockdowns happened, I had lost 5 escrows in March, and then it was very clear and apparent to me that everybody I had in my pipeline was going to be waiting to see what was happening with the pandemic, with the real estate market. Now, we all know what happened in hindsight, but I had a very scary period of time where I'd been doing this 14 years at that point. And I actually, over the course of that summer, having no business for almost 4, 5, 6 months, I didn't close a deal. I actually considered, am I going to keep doing this? Is this something that do I need to change what I'm doing? That is, interestingly enough, quite similar to a position we're in right now. I know that many markets from the beginning of this year, and definitely in the last 2 months, have seen a significant decrease in transactions. So this is the time to focus on yourself. This is the time to build these practices and these habits of where you can set your goals and you can plan ahead and you can be productive. If you're busy and you're killing it, you're not going to have the time. You don't have the time to work on your business. And that's a problem for a lot of people. And that busy varies. I know I don't care for you if it's someone's doing 6, 7 transactions a month and they're slammed, or if it's 1 or 2 and you're happy and you're satisfied. The time invested in your business is always necessary. So I recommend that this is a time to focus. And that's what I did the summer of 2020. And I worked hard on my goals and being accountable and building a pipeline. And it really did pay off for me. And I've been at it for years. Now, I'm not always perfectly consistent. I will be honest with you on that. But I know that using my scorecard takes me to the next level of being productive. So here's the main elements of a scorecard. The first is your goal tracking. So the first is your main goal. You've got to have a main goal. I have several in here, but you may only have 1 or 2 that are your main focuses. So for example, my first goal here is my CRM, to build a pipeline of referrals and repeat business by contacting my sphere regularly. Then your other key element is your weekly tactics that are scoreable. This is really important. So they have to be something that you can actually track. So I had make calls. I wanted to do 4 conversations an hour, or leave 10 voicemails an hour. And on Sunday, I wanted to do this for an hour, and on Tuesday for an hour, and Wednesday for an hour. So I wanted to spend an hour making calls to my CRM 3 times in that week. And then I can measure and track it. Did I do only 30 minutes? It looks to me like what happened is I didn't make it on Sunday. And on Monday, I did 30 minutes. And on Wednesday, I did an hour and a half because I tracked it like that. So, and then the other key element is a critical analysis questions. So I would always ask myself, where did I fail at the end of the week? And just general notes like, why did I fail? What were some of my obstacles? And then what lessons did I learn and how can I improve? What you want to do is with your scorecard is every day you need to score yourself and check how you're doing. So at the end of the day, I would even give myself a score to incentivize that. Even if I just looked at it, I got my daily review checked off. Because if I wasn't looking at it, I wasn't thinking about what I needed to do. And if you're looking at it at the end of the day and you're scoring, then you know what your priorities need to be the next day or the rest of the week, and you know how to adjust. At the end of the week, you total your score, and you now have a measurable way of understanding how much you are executing. Now, this is when I first started out, and my goals were a little bit easy, and so I did score at 90%. I very inconsistently will score that high. The authors of 12-Week Year have found in their hundreds of case studies that if a person executes at a level of at least 80%, they will be tremendously successful at reaching their goals. But I want to caveat that. 2 things I want you to think about. That doesn't mean you quit working once you hit 80%. You always want to strive to achieve a higher level of execution of your tactics. Some weeks you'll do worse and some weeks you'll do better. And really, if you're consistently hitting 90 to 100%, you could take on more goals. You could take on more tasks. And then that also doesn't mean 20, 30, 40% scores are terrible and need to be demotivating. When you first start out, it's really hard to execute at a high level if you're not used to it. As long as you're improving and building higher scores week to week, that's something that you can measure and you can see you're improving. That's the key. I've absolutely had weeks that I do 40 or 50%, and I reflect on why. And then I even find that I'm still more productive if I'm tracking it than if I wasn't. Any questions on that so far? I don't have the chat open. So Tori, you let me know if anybody is dropping in. Let me see if I can bring up the chat. Okay,
Did
cool.
you say that you had a template for the scorecard that you're going to
Yes.
share as well?
Yes, I do. I do have a template, and I will post it in the nationwide discussion group in Allison James. So, the thing to think about with a scorecard is if you didn't keep track, if you didn't keep score of something, in a couple of ways, you wouldn't achieve the level of success you want. And it's funny, in life, we do this a lot, right? Like you wouldn't go to a sporting event. You wouldn't go to a football game or a baseball game if they didn't keep score. I just don't know how exciting that would be. If you decided that you wanted to train for a marathon, or you want to work out more, or you want to get in shape, if your goal is, I want to be healthy, and even if you have a pretty good vision of that, you're like, it's not so important what I weigh, I just want to be healthy. I expect you'd still track your weight. I expect that you would still, take measurements or do before and after photos, because you wouldn't feel like, what am I working so hard for? Or you'd set goals that were specific, like I'm going to work out 4 days a week. Not, I'll just work out when I have time, and I will, not look at my weight ever. It's unlikely that you would stay motivated. So that's part of the benefit of keeping score. And the other thing is, again, if you look at your goals only once a month or once a year or every 6 months, you can't be nimble. You can't change your plan quick enough. So when I look at my week, sometimes at the beginning of the week, I'm very optimistic. Sometimes I think I'm going to call 50 people this week in my database, and then it doesn't happen. I called 5. Well, part of this is I look back and I think about why. Maybe I didn't set a specific time I'd call. Maybe I didn't block a time. I thought I would just do it when I have time. So I need next week, I need to look at it and say, I'm going to block 9 a.m. on Tuesday and Wednesday, or I'm going to do that the first thing every morning. Or maybe I took a buyer out on Monday and I didn't account for the fact that I'd probably be making offers and negotiating on Tuesday and opening escrow and scheduling inspections on Wednesday. And half my week was not on my goals. It was on my very important work, but it didn't get to my strategic goals. On that note, this isn't a glorified scorecard. To-do list. This isn't a glorified to-do list. This isn't something you should put everything you're doing on. Have a to-do list, have your calendar. The reason I say that is most likely you're not struggling to schedule the appointments your client has asked you to do today. Or when they called you and said, hey, that house we saw yesterday, I love, we want to make an offer. More than likely you're not struggling and being like 4 days later, you're like, oh, I didn't make that offer. It's probably something you're jumping right on. So I use this to push myself to do the things that I keep putting off. These are the things that are bigger picture that I'm not doing. I'm not struggling to get, the very immediate active things done. I'm not struggling to respond to my emails or get to my escrow and reply with the documents needed. So what I want to ask you guys, if anybody wants to jump in, is what's something you've said you would do for weeks, and then weeks turn into months and even years? So if anybody wants to talk or jump in, I'd love to hear it, give you some input. Or just type it in the chat.
I do want to make a comment too, just looking at your scorecard, Ron. It's most of it's work related, but you have things that aren't work related. So just when you're thinking about your goals, it's not always pertaining to real estate or pertaining to your career. He has things on there like spend time with family and go to bed early. I saw on there. So it doesn't, when we think about goals, you don't have to just think about career goals. Right. We're talking goals in general, and that's important to make note of. So
yeah, well, and that's part of it, Tori, because those are things that if I'm not succeeding at just doing, like at the end of the day, if I went to bed early regularly and I was just amazing at doing that naturally, then it would never have made it on my scorecard. Or and I felt the need to give myself credit for when I'm not working because I took time off to be with my kids, as opposed to looking at that as if like I as a failing. It's not. So, all right. So Veronica said to have a continuous flow of income and building relationship contacts. So that's something that you would feel like it's both a goal and something that you feel like you've been feeling at in the CRM detail. And Sean said, I typically delay on the making calls part. Yeah, I hear you. You feel like you drag. John hit them all. He's got them right. Workout, self-care, work on CRM. And John, if I remember, you've been doing this, I see it 18 years, and I get it, because the longer I've been doing this, the more I've struggled with some of that balance instead of getting the hang of it. So those are great things that, what I'm going to talk about today, those are really great goals that you want to strive to accomplish. And if throughout this presentation, I'm going to talk about how we focus in on putting the things that go in your scorecard. So at the end of the day, you start with an overarching goal. And I want to help you make that a more specific goal. And then we're going to break down how to make that into specific tasks, or what I call tactics, strategies, weekly, daily things you need to do. Like John's goal of wanting to work out or take care of himself is an overarching goal. But specifically, there needs to be a very measurable way of what is you're going to feel accomplished that you're working out, and then what is that tactic? And then that tactic needs to go on the scorecard. For Veronica, we need to break that down as much as we can. So how will you get a continuous flow of income, like the CRM portion, right? If you understand and know, you need to be contacting your database regularly. And that's the one thing we push off. Like Sean said it as well, we push off. I've had years of being like, I need to be better about getting in touch with my database. And then for years, I've been still saying it. And I won't do it because I'm busy making, talking to a client, I'm writing an offer, I'm out negotiating an offer, I'm closing a deal, and I can still feel good. I'm like, oh, I closed 2 deals this month or this week. I think you feel good about yourself, but you're not getting to where you want to be. John says, does getting in a car to drive to the gym count? Only to answer the phone and off to take care of a client first, right? Okay, so let's jump in. Let me show you a couple of my other scorecard examples, and then I'm going to jump into setting goals and tactics and things like that. So this was 90% when I first started out, but let me show you, the week later, I hit 40%. I want to show you sometimes when the failings, they happen. So my goal was to make calls. It looks like I did that, but it looks like I didn't organize my prospect list. I didn't go through my bad prospects. It looks like I only posted a couple times in Facebook, not as much as I wanted to. I didn't get to my mailer campaign. And then here's my daily review. I didn't even check my scorecard. It looks like I checked it once that week. So what did I notice? I first of all, I anticipated a lower score this week because I was working less and I had to focus more on my regular work, that work I was telling you you're always doing. I also planned meetings almost every day this week. And I pushed through several nights of exhaustion, just wanting to go to bed earlier and just to keep working, just because I wanted my score to be decent. So that helped me motivate, but that's a balance I have to learn. So in the future, lessons I learned was to plan less meetings on a week that's already going to be busy. So I'm thinking ahead. And then I was unsure of the balance of if it's worth pushing through exhaustion to work or when I should get a good night's rest. That stuff, that type of self-reflection helps me adjust every week. So then I go into the next week with a different plan. Like, you know what, I'm going to start earlier in the week, trying to get as many goals as I can done because things pop up and are unforeseen. So on July 5th, I did much better. I hit 80%. And, I think I hit all my CRM goals. Let me see. Yeah, I hit all my CRM goals, which felt amazing. And some of my other goals, my mailer campaign goals I hit, look, I reviewed every day. I mean, it shows me that works. So my general note of it was my second week in a row at 80%. And what I learned, and I learned on that first week, was it took consistent daily effort to achieve 80%. So then I knew what it felt like. So when I actually scored myself and I knew what happened my last week, I thought about how hard I worked, and I knew it's like, okay, to do this again, that's how hard I have to work. I considered every day significant. I had to execute it every day without any day off. So it really helped me measure what I was doing. I'll show you some more recent ones that aren't as high, but still I think that it's important to reflect. And then also my scorecard has evolved, by the way. So this is something that you can do. Like, for example, I started to include my number of active leads, clients, and escrows. And that way I would know if I wasn't doing well. It was like, oh, I had 5 escrows in place, or I had, like I realized why I was so busy. So this is in February. I reviewed and cleaned out 150 KV core contacts. I didn't do any of my other CRM goals, like writing in emails and texts, campaign. I did my accounting. I barely did my daily review. I only scored a 44%. So in this note, I wrote, I still swear by the scorecard, even with a low score present. So I would have executed even less without the scorecard. I knew that. There was many nights I worked later and I was more focused just to ensure I made progress with my goals. You know that feeling you have sometimes when you work all day and you don't feel good and you don't feel accomplished, or sometimes at the end of the day you think, what did I do today? Like, how did I not get to like maybe the one thing I thought I would do? Whatever that is. Oh, I want to call 10 people in my sphere today. And you busted your ass all day and you stopped working and you went and had dinner and you thought, I didn't even get to that. And it's crazy because if you had done that, it's amazing how if that's all you did that day, some days then you'll feel amazing. Then you'll feel accomplished. So it's another reminder for anybody that the difference between productivity and how much time you spend it's not about how many hours you put in something, it's what you're getting done. So when you say you want to get something done and you get it done, that feeling is unbelievable and that will keep you motivated. When you say you want to do something and you do everything but that, you'll get the opposite feeling. So that's my drive by the scorecard. And I don't do it every month. I miss out, but when I do it for 2-3 months in a row, I feel the difference. All right, so let's talk about, I'm going to drop out of the screen share for now. Okay. Anybody have anything else they want to jump in and say? Okay. So let's talk about setting your goals and tactics. Okay. So I want to maybe call on somebody, if anybody wants to talk, would Sean, John, or Veronica, would either of you guys like to elaborate on your goal so we can discuss that a little bit? Tori can give you access to the mic. If not, I can just give you my examples, but I'd love to hear from you. Okay. Okay, nobody wants to talk today. Oh, all right, Sean wants to talk.
Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and Sean, I'm going to give you access to talk. You'll get a notification. And then all you have to do is unmute yourself and share your video if you'd like. All right. Hey, Sean, how's it going?
Good. How you doing?
Good. Where are you? What city?
I am in Hampton Roads, Virginia.
Okay. Awesome.
Yes.
All right. So tell me about one of your struggles or one of your goals that you'd really love to see yourself to achieve.
I think in my previous life, I was an artist and so I have a pretty large following on social media and things like that. And
that's great.
And a lot of different connects. And so whenever you talk about, or whenever I hear, following up with your list and things like that. And of course I do that on social media. I think it's the easiest way, right? I talk to nobody, but I think I always struggle with the idea of, maybe just picking up the phone and talking to somebody that I really just haven't talked to in years. Yeah. Or you might see them on social media or so on and so forth, but calling them, it feels, I always say, I know I'm a salesperson as far as a real estate agent, but I never want to come across as a salesman, if that makes sense. And so it feels, You know what I mean? So it feels very salesy. You
Yeah.
know, I'm calling you out the blue. Hey, what's going on? Hey, so
Yeah.
you got the house? You know,
I'm Sean, I'm totally happy to talk about this. Absolutely. And even more than just talking about setting a goal, because this is a conversation I have with agents I mentor and train all the time.
Okay.
And it's really important. And most of, I saw that you wrote, you've been doing this 2 years, and now knowing your background and that you've got this huge network, but it's like, how do I talk to them? So, okay, a couple of things I want to say that I think will resonate with you and I think will be beneficial for anybody on the call. The first thing is that you're struggling with is you don't want to be a salesperson. And I agree. You want to be authentic. So I don't believe, how do I put this? I don't like doing sales, but I think the problem is sales is about, we think sales is about selling something instead of helping people and being there and creating relationships. So specifically, what am I asking you to do? You want to be authentic and be comfortable. So when I reach out to people that I haven't talked to in years, I am genuinely calling to just see how they're doing. I've got no agenda. And I'm not pretending to have no agenda. I genuinely have no agenda. And that is probably an easier place for you to come from, where you think about that person and think about what you know about them and remember about them, and then genuinely want to know more about them. So you're, calling them and saying like, how have you been? It has been years. What are you doing these days? How is your family? How's that, whatever you know about them, where are you living these days? Whatever it is you don't know about them and you want to know more about them. And genuinely you're sharing about yourself. And that's not at sales. That's relationships. That's trying to reconnect so that then you can call them again and it not be weird. Right. You saying to them, telling them about you. Sean, I'm sure you got new stuff to tell them. What's going on with your life? And there's always something. And even if it's a trip you took last weekend, or it's a huge family news, or it's life-changing, or it's minor. I tell people to think about like calling somebody that you like to talk to, a friend, a family member, and I'm telling you that you should call them once a month, and you should just call them and say, how are you? And they should, and tell them how you're doing. And that's the main thing. Does that feel difficult in your mind?
No, not. I mean, I'm typically a charismatic dude, so that's a little simpler.
Yeah. Look, there's a school of thought that you're supposed to ask for referrals. Okay. And if you follow some of the like Tom Ferry is a huge motivational speaker and coach for real estate agents. And there's a big school of thought that like, if you don't ask, you don't receive. And I think that if you ask and you're not comfortable for something, everybody knows it. Mm-hmm. So I think you've got to be an authentic person. So I don't ask. I ask when they comes up. Here's what most of my calls go like this. I call and I'm just like, hey, how are you? And then sometimes they're like, hey, Ron, what's up? What can I do for you? And I'm like, nothing. I was just calling to see how you've been. It's been a while. They relax so fast. And then also they can't help talking to me about real estate. Nobody can. I don't ever bring it up. And if they don't know you do real estate, then that's what you're updating them on, because it is new in your life. Like, how have you been? What have you been up to? You're telling them what you've been doing. Maybe you're still doing some, artistry on the side. Maybe you moved recently. Oh, I also been doing real estate. That's what I do now too. And that's it. And then what happens is every time I call my contacts, they're always like, how's the market? I've actually almost been off the phone with somebody. I was like, how's your kids? How's your family? We're just talking. I told them I took a trip to San Diego. And then I was like, well, it's good catching up with you, because I could tell they were kind of in a hurry and I didn't want to keep them. And then he's like, well, hang on. How's the market? And they're like, oh, this, and that. And he's like, we're thinking of selling. Okay, well, what do you want to know? He's like, do you want me to tell you, help you with the value of your home? You want me to, do a report? What are you thinking? And then for me, I'm always the why. I want to know why they'd want to sell, not let me jump on that, or we want to buy. Well, why? What do you guys need? What's different? What's going on in your life? I want to know everything.
Sure. Gotcha.
So I hope that helps in terms of that.
It does. Thank you.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what's really cool is when you come from that angle, you start to realize how just connecting with people is just helpful in your life. I can have bad days, and when I go and make my calls, I really feel like I feel better after, because I get on the phone with somebody who's an awesome person,
Mm-hmm.
and you just like, we just talk. And then sometimes I unload a little bit too, which I personally don't have an issue. I feel it's good to give people honesty. Some agents I know prefer to do like that Instagram perfection, where they're posting, they're amazing and they're successful and they want to tell them they're having a hard day. I personally don't mind when I call my people and they're like, how are you? I'm like, it's been a bad week. My kid's been sick and I have like been so stressed out. Well, how are you? Because then they're very authentic with me. And I usually feel good. When you talk to a good friend, how they pick you up a little bit sometimes.
Right.
So there's that. And then bottom line for me is I just want to be making contact. So I think for you, an amazing, really important goal would be to be communicating with your sphere and reconnecting with these people regularly. And then, you have to ask yourself, does that goal make sense? I think it certainly does, and is that where most of your business could come from? For a lot of agents, it can. For anybody else on the call with your other goals, ask yourself those questions. Where do you have the most potential to grow? What goals are important to you that are not directly related to your business also, like on the personal level? And then we want to break that down more. So we don't want to just, okay, you're going to get in touch with people in your sphere regularly. Well, how are you, you got to track that. You got to be thinking about what's your process. So work through that plan. Maybe it's, let me figure out who I want to talk to first. So your first step, Sean, really can be getting all these people into a list somewhere, whether it's through KV Core, our database that Allison James provides, whether it's on a spreadsheet, whether it's on a notepad. It doesn't have to be fancy. And then it's working through that list. But then you want to set yourself a goal and say like, well, what do I think I can do? Like, I'm going to try to call 10 people a week. Maybe I can do that. I'm going to try to call 20 people a week, 15, 5. And then my whole point of my whole scorecard and everything is like, now track it. Give yourself that motivation to be like, that isn't a goal accomplished. Because in the long term, it's really hard to realize what you and I just talked about, how that's going to bring you business, right? If you said to me, Ron, my goal is I want to do 10 deals this year. Well, what we just talked about might get you 10 deals this year, but we can't measurably say like, all right, well, let's just jump to the goal. You got 10 deals. Like, how do you get there? Well, and then it's hard every week to feel like you're getting to those 10 deals because just, what did you do? I made 20 calls this week. Is that getting me to my 10 deals? None of them were ready to buy or sell. That's not the point. So that's why I do a lot of like tracking and making yourself feel accomplished and realizing you've got to do all these steps. It's like working out, right? Like it's hard to just work out once and be like, I'm amazing. You feel good afterwards, but you don't really have the results you want. But you know that you have to do it 100 times. You know that. You've got to do it for months to feel really good or to look really good or to be able to run a marathon or whatever it is you're looking to do. Well, thanks, Sean. Appreciate you, man.
No problem. Thanks, Ron.
Yeah. Anybody else who wants to jump in anytime, seriously. I don't mind getting into the specifics with you guys. So let me continue forward on what Sean and I were talking about. For example, I know that most of my business comes from my sphere referrals also. My sphere, my database, my relationships. And I know that I need to be better about staying in touch with them. So this is one of my goals every 12 weeks. I have other goals, like I really want to improve my social media presence this year. So what do I want to do? So very specifically, I want to revamp my social media page with new graphics, new information, and then I want to put a plan into place on how I'm going to generate content regularly. So that's my goal for the next 12 weeks. That's a really important 12-week goal. So what my recommendation is to everybody on the call, how to get started. I want you to brainstorm your goals. I want you to write down all your goals. And don't worry about it being too many goals. Don't worry about the plan to achieve these goals just yet. We'll talk about that. Don't worry about having too many goals. We'll prioritize them. And then realistically, you may only achieve 1 to 2 goals every 12 weeks because that makes it obtainable. Where you focus on a smaller amount of goals in a shorter period of time, it's more realistic. Like in Sean's example, I'd hate for you to feel overwhelmed and say like, I'm going to start posting TikTok videos. I'm going to do 5 videos a week. I'm going to call 20 people a week. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And then 3 months from now, you check in with yourself, or every week you should check in yourself. But 3 months, you're like, I've kind of partially did all of those. And then again, but if you just said to yourself, like, this is it, like, that's it. My laser focus is going to be, I know 300 people. I mean, what your background is, Sean, is amazing. Like that sphere and that relationship, those people know you're interesting and know you're a good character for different reasons. And that's really the way we get clients as real estate agents. And then our expertise and our services comes later. So that being said, I want you guys to brainstorm your goals, and then we'll focus on the top goals. So for example, mine might be contacting my entire sphere regularly, increasing my social media presence. I want to work out regularly. I want to build a Google business page with reviews. So now you need to prioritize your goals. Focus on the top one. And then we need to write more specific measurable goals. So my spheres is about 300 contacts. I want to call everyone in my sphere every 3 months. So that I figured that's about 100 a month. So then I figured that's about 25 a week. So that's me getting down to my weekly, daily. What am I doing? How am I going to hit that? How am I going to hit 300 people in 3 months? I need to call 25 people a week. And then I'll even break that down more and say, like, okay, I'm going to do that 2 days a week. I think I can call about 10 to 15 people, in an hour, or in 2 hours. A lot of it is voicemails. And then there's, some of them I've got 15-minute, 5-minute, 20-minute, solid, amazing conversations. But even a voicemail I want to leave, or a text, because then I've reached out, like, hey, I just called, saw my missed call. I just called to see how you're doing and catch up. And then my social media presence, I want to increase that. So what is my goal? I want to post at minimum 4 times a week. And I want to comment, reply, and message to at least 10 friends a week. Whatever that goal, those numbers, you got to have some measurable goals. So my assignment for you guys is to brainstorm your goals, prioritize them, pick the top one, and then figure out exactly how you really do that. Break it down to actual tasks. Maybe it's a mailer campaign you're trying to do. Maybe you do cold calls and expireds, but you got to have a number that you want to do, not just, how are you going to know at the end of the week, did you do a good job? I called a bunch of people. I called 50 people. That's what I wanted to do. I called 50. My goal was 100. So does anyone else want to volunteer their goal? And I'll help you figure out how to break that down more specifically. In case, I don't know if anybody else wants me to help them kind of think through some of the things they're trying to do. I think actually, the few people that wrote in the text, in the chat, did really, a lot of you had said CRM, so I can focus on that, because I get that, like focusing on your database and things like that. So the part of this is not to get overwhelmed. So you have direct action, you know what to take. So let's jump into planning. All right, for the group here, would you consider yourself a planner or not? I'd love for people to just write yes or no. I absolutely do not consider myself a planner. Yeah, Lisa. Yes, you are a planner. Veronica, no. Okay, you're with me. You're with me. Sean, awesome. Okay, so I want to ask Lisa. Lisa, would you be okay to talk? I want to know what it's like for you, because you consider yourself a planner. Because I struggle with this. Yeah, go ahead. Thanks, Tori. Yeah, so like if you're like me and you've not been a planner your whole life, it takes me deliberate focus, Lisa. It's like really hard. It's a thing I instinctively do not want to do. So what's it like for you?
I grew up being disciplined, and I think and that's why I got into real estate and got into sales. I was a ballerina for years and years and years. And wow. So I was disciplined to go since I was 8 years old. And when you're, so when you're taught, like talk about muscle memory, it's just memory. And it's, if I want to achieve walking on my toes, I had to go to class 4 days a week and, walk on my toes. And I had to do that for 4 years before I was able to walk on my toes and, use point shoes. So from that, then I got into dancing professionally, and I was a Las Vegas showgirl here.
Wow.
In Las Vegas. Yeah. So I moved from San Diego to here to Las Vegas just in August.
I was just going to ask that. Where are you?
Yeah. So I'm here in Vegas. So I do want to get to know you and all that. But my point is that I grew up disciplined with just all these different disciplines. So when I was in Mary Kay Cosmetics, and I have still for 33 years,
Wow.
that same thing of calling, getting a customer base and generating that. So when I decided to get into real estate in San Diego 10 years ago, because I knew that I know so many people, I know San Diego like the back of my hand, that discipline, like you said, was just like, oh gosh, what do I need to do to just reach out, connect, and do that? So it's something where you're building a muscle.
Yeah.
And that's how I looked at it, even like a dancer. So I'm building a muscle that if I do it, and they say it takes 21 days to get into a good habit, whether it's a good or bad habit. And so that kind of discipline has always just been ingrained in me and done that. So it's become automatic.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. So you've learned at a
Okay.
young age, like most of the good or bad things that any of us have, we picked them up when we were
Yep.
young.
Yeah.
Right. And then we have either a lifetime of trying to break them, or they've been a lifetime of value for us.
Right.
So that's fantastic. And that makes sense to me. That connects. And then you had to learn to think ahead. You had to
Yep.
learn to look at goals long term. I mean, you got into being a ballerina, and you knew that, hey, what I want to do takes years.
Yeah.
Like, that's hard for a lot of people to visualize. Me, especially. I have adapted. I've evolved. A big thank you to my wife, because she's always been a planner. So she's helped me for years figure this out. But I have to work at it, like you said, and you do too.
Yep.
It maybe comes more natural to you, which I think is nice. But it is about thinking ahead. It is about planning. And the same thing with any goal. Like, it's, like my question is, it's almost like, is it a special skill or is it natural?
I think it's a special skill. I think the human nature, we just want to do the easier, softer way.
Yeah.
That's human nature.
We're
So
relaxed.
yeah, exactly. So no, to do this and to know that I will achieve, but I think it was because I realized that I did achieve my goal, and this is how you get there. I
Mhm.
had proof that it was like, if you do that work and are that discipline, you will get to your goal, no matter what that is.
Yeah, you're right. Once you put something in place and you achieve it,
Yeah.
and that reward is a lot for any of us here to say, like, this works. Like the things I'm talking to you guys about today, what happened is I was just like, I've got to try something different, and worked really hard at it, and was like, this works. Like I was dragging my feet at certain goals for so many years, like I've been doing this for so long, and I didn't maintain good communication with my network. But I was very blessed to just have people, keep calling me back to sell their house or buy their house years later. And then I didn't talk to them for 2 years. But then I learned and saw that I also lost a lot of business because I didn't do that. And it took me a lot of focus and planning to realize I had to put a plan. I can't just be like, oh, I will just do that. Like you already know this. I'm speaking to the wrong person. You already know that you can't just have a goal and then just kind of hope it's going to happen.
No.
I'll just make time for that when I have time. Like I'm gonna learn to dance professionally and just do it once in a while. Like,
yeah,
it's not gonna happen. And that's something I've struggled with personally. So planning is absolutely one thing that I wanted to drive home to everybody, and breaking down those goals. For example, continuing on my example, I wanted to spend, let's say I want to call 25 people a week. So I need to figure out how long that's going to take me. Let's say I establish it's going to be 2.5 hours a week. Well, that might not be enough just to block the time. I might get nervous. I might avoid doing it. I might build it up as something complicated, to Sean's point. Sometimes it's like, well, what do I say? So I've written out a loose guide of what to say when I call people. And it's really not complicated what I write, but having it in front of me is like a quick reminder. I might have 2-3 questions in front of me that says something like, hey, Lisa, how are you? I'm just calling to keep in touch. How's your, and then like personal question, because I know you, I should have something to say, how is your family? How's your father? How's your, new job? How was that trip I saw you take on Facebook? Like whatever it is. And then I always have an update on me ready to go, because there's nothing like sharing about yourself that makes people share more too. So that's not hard. Don't overcomplicate that. You can't tell me something about yourself. I'm asking you to tell me what you did last week or last weekend or something you loved. Like for me, I went on a trip with my kids to San Diego a couple weeks ago, my wife and my kids. We had a blast. And I could talk about that naturally. I don't need a script. I want to tell you about the theme park. My kids are old enough to go on roller coasters. Finally, it was so much fun. My wife and I loved that. We went on the same roller coaster 5 times in a row. I'm connecting with people. So that's my plan, but then it's more than that. Like, how many people am I trying to call? So I took my list and I broke it down. I have 300 people. So I broke my list into an A, B, and C group. And then I ranked each person in those groups by high, mid, and low priorities. Now the A, B, and C wasn't important. It was just to give me like, this is the 100 people I call in June, this is July, this is August. And then I would just do it again. But the high, mid, and low is important because if I don't get to everybody, I need to make sure I at least got to the high priority ones. And for me, my breakdown of what was high was pretty easy. It was anybody I'd ever done business with or ever referred me business. Because I absolutely never want to lose touch with somebody that I actually helped buy or sell a house, or someone that actually thought of me when it was important to refer them. Like if they never bought a house with me ever, but they told their cousin to call me, like I never want to lose touch with that person because they considered me worthwhile. And so then I go through my list. Then my plan is to start at the top and go down and just do my best and keep track. But I start with the highs and I get to the mids and the lows. But then when I get to the next month, I go to my B group. That plan has kept me moving. Whereas you and I talked about, Lisa, like if I just said, I'm just going to try to call everybody in my database. I've got 300 people. I'm just going to go from the top down until I'm done. I may get to like 6 months from now and I didn't call everybody because things happen. Is there anything I can help you out with, Lisa, on some of your goals that you might?
Well, initially, yeah, like I said, I'm not licensed here yet.
Oh, you didn't catch up on that.
So I just re-upped my license and renewed my license in California with Tom Bullock, and staying over there as well because I have so many people I know, and as you know, it's close to San Diego,
Yeah.
so it's
it's huge. The amount of business that comes in here from California is amazing.
Right. So, but that's what I was going to say. I want to get my license here too. So
let's talk about that off the call anytime.
Yeah.
It's actually really easy because there's reciprocity with California.
Okay.
It's harder to get your license in California, so you can get yours here with only like 18 hours of credit class.
Fantastic. Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for sharing. I'll keep going because I don't want to keep anybody past 11. I know everybody's got their schedule and busy life. So, all right. So let's do a quick recap of what we've discussed so far. So we've discussed having 1 to 2 overarching goals. Yeah, absolutely. Veronica, I will absolutely share my spreadsheet for the goals. If you're in the app, otherwise I post it there, but otherwise I could get your email after, or I'll have Tori just copy and paste my email, phone number, etc. in the chat, and you can email me after this. So 1 or 2 overarching goals that you want to accomplish in the next 12 weeks. Again, laser focus, right? 12 weeks, totally doable. Forget this 6 months, the next 6 months, next 12 months. Then I want you to break that goal down to be more specific and measurable. Planning is hard for me. So I actually even put that in my scorecard. Like this week, my goal is to sit down and plan my goal. It's that hard for me. I have to say, sit down, Ron, spend an hour and just put your thoughts down. And then it works. I found that it's magical for me, but like, it's probably like Lisa's probably like, obviously. So then come up with specific tactics that you need to do weekly to get to that goal. So in my example, if it was, I want to be on Facebook more and do more social media, my specific is I want to post 4 times that week. But my plan is I'm going to come up in advance with my categories of content, just loosely. It's okay. It can be flexible, but I want to do like once a week, I want to do like top 5s, like top 5 best bathrooms. Cause I look at houses all day. I could easily pull 5 pictures, or top 5 worst backyards, and maybe that'd be one of my posts. And maybe one of my posts would be like local stuff. Maybe one will be just a listing or, market stuff. And that's going to help me with my outline up front. So when I don't get stuck and nervous and like overthink it, when it's like time to post, Ron, What am I going to post? Oh, my dog's cute. Like, I want to do more than that. So those are my tactics, and they're going to be on my weekly scorecard. And then I'm going to track that scorecard. You know, one of the things that I do, the reason I do that is it's about accountability. And let's talk about that word for a second. I think people define accountability wrong often. I think that people view accountability as something that someone else does to you, that you need a boss to hold you accountable, or your partner holds you accountable. Accountability to me is about taking ownership of what you're doing. And it doesn't have to be positive or negative. Accountability is, I need to be accountable for, I set these goals. Did I do them? How did I do on them? Why didn't I do them well? What do I need to do better? So it doesn't have to be a negative experience, but I can't be accountable if I wasn't tracking my goals. I mean, I'll just have a feeling like I'm not doing well. And I'm not. Sure, I could be doing amazing and also not have a feeling like I'm doing great because I don't really know. So that's one thing. Now, what I recommend, and this is from the 12-week year also, to go even one step further, is have a weekly accountability meeting with someone else. So you put a group together. It can be other agents. It can be people in other industries. I'm going to post about this in the Allison James group too, in the Nationwide. Anybody wants me to pair them up with someone and they want to get into a 2 to 3 person accountability group, what you do is you each track your scorecards. You meet for 15 minutes once a week. You show your scorecard and you talk about it the way I talked about it with you guys. You say, these were my goals. This is how I did. And then you answer those critical questions that you already thought about. Like, this is why I didn't do that well. This is what I'm going to do differently next week. It's not about the people on that call holding you accountable. It's not about them trying to motivate you and be like, you got this, you can do it. It's simply that because you had to meet with someone, you'll do it. They're there just to tell you their issues. You're there to tell them your issues, and you're both going to say, good luck, I'll see you next week. And that way, you're not going to track it if you're not meeting with someone. You're not going to be as diligent. You're not going to hold yourself accountable. That's the thing, right? It's almost like if I said I'm going to call you every day and every morning and say, did you work out this morning? You're going to work out in the morning just because you do not want one more call from me where you had to say no. Like, that's it. That's how we are all programmed. I don't want you calling me and me being like, no, even though you're like, no, it's fine. I'm not judging you, whatever you got, like, busy life. I get it. So that's the next step I always say. It's doing a weekly accountability meeting, having a partner. So I will do a separate post in the app. If you're interested, you could also just email me. So I'll do one more recap for you guys. Last thing I'll say, and then I'll let everybody go. And then anybody wants to jump in, ask questions, or stay on and talk, you can, okay? So clear recap, forget annualized thinking. Try setting goals in 12 weeks periods. Forget 12 months, forget it. You know, you can have these big, long goals, like my 5-year plan is X, but you need to break that down. So then this 12 weeks, I'm going to do this, the next 12 weeks, and they get you to that 5-year plan. Write down all your goals, prioritize and focus them on 1 to 2 at a time. And you need to write more specific, measurable goals. Come up with weekly tactics to accomplish those goals, and write a plan on how you're going to execute those goals over the 12 weeks. Keep score. Use a scorecard every week and partner up with a peer and have an accountability meeting. So listen, if you're doing 24 transactions a year, or you've got a family to take care of, or you've got a second job, I understand that you feel like you don't have time for this. I get it. I don't have time for this. But I promise you, if you want more consistency in your business, if you want to achieve goals and a success level that you've never had before, if you integrate even part of what I've said today, you'll see improvement. If you can implement everything I've discussed today, you won't believe the amount of growth and results that you'll have. So other thing I want to say, remember, it's never too late to start planning your business. The beauty of 12 weeks planning is you don't have to say, I'm going to do this in 2023. Do it now. You don't have to think I'm going to wait till next month to get started. You're thinking about the next 3 months. Last thing, a mantra I always tell myself that helps is time invested in a plan is never time wasted. So any other questions, anything else for me, anybody, before I let you all go? Anybody else want to jump in? Let me know. Happy to jump on, talk more. Otherwise, I really appreciate everybody's time, taking out time today. Thank you. I hope this was helpful.
I did just put your contact information in the chat. So if you guys do want to email, I put Ron's phone number and email address in there. So go ahead and save that. He is also reachable in the app. And like he said, he'll go ahead and post in the nationwide discussion room, which is in the Allison James app. If you still need access to the app, if you haven't gotten that yet, please email support@agicorporate.com and we'll make sure you get in there so that way you can, one, you can watch the recording of this and also be in touch with Ron that way and see what he's going to post in the nationwide room. You were going to post your goal tracking
Yes.
sheet, which is
Yeah,
perfect.
I'll put the template in there and I'll post about accountability meetings. I'll just do it in one post. I'll do that today. So
Perfect. Perfect.
and thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it. I look forward to talking to you. Thank you, Sean. Veronica asked if anyone wants to be an accountability partner. So Veronica, be in touch. I will definitely, if you're in the app, we can maybe connect that way as well. And then anybody ever wants to call or email me, you can, if you've got anything you want to talk about, okay? Everyone else that's been on the call that I didn't call out, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Ron. And thanks for everyone for taking an hour out of your day to join us. We do really appreciate it. And Ron, thank you for taking an hour out of your day to provide us with this great information. I know it's very appreciated by everybody who was on this call, and we appreciate you very much. So
Thank you, Tori.
thanks so much, Ron, again. And again, thanks to everyone. We host these every month, so make sure you join. We try and do different topics. So hopefully we see you next month on this national webinar. Until then, I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their June. I can't believe it's already almost July, but
Yeah.
I hope everyone has a safe and fun 4th of July coming up as well. And that's about it. So I hope everyone has a great day and we hope to see you next time.
Thank you, Tori. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.